Finally, we are going to get unique stats and alluvial leveling and finally figure out what the heck shard integrity is in the overworld. You know, one of the major perks about deciding to be a content creator is the early sneak peeks and information and, of course, sharing it with all of you. Last week, several of us were able to sit down with none other than TSG and get an early look at PvP in action, as well as chat about the overworld updates coming in the much anticipated PB3 release. Before we dive too deep into all of the good stuff, please remember that absolutely everything said here is subject to change, from augment costs to the inclusion of certain alluvials and, well, anything. Now, while a lot of you have been dying for PvP for ages, I'm more of an overworld gal. If you couldn't care less, I don't blame you. My PvP update video is coming in a day or so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. The first item on the agenda is one that might not be new to everyone, but it's time to say goodbye to Arlen. Going forward, players will no longer be able to play her as a character, and instead, we will have the choice between either a generic male or female ranger. While it is true that we will get to experience customization of these characters in the future, that unfortunately is not a feature that we expect to see with the release of PB3. One update that is coming to Sanctimessa that I am sure all of us can appreciate is that the overall UI and locker storage is getting a massive upgrade. I'm sure I'm not the only one who had pain points with how we had to navigate that UI just to place alluvials into our inventory before traveling. And speaking of alluvials, as with every update, the team adds in just a few more new characters to whet our appetite for change and keep things interesting. This time around, we're going to see the introduction of the second and third stage of the squid line, Aphisto and Octius, as well as the full lines of both the sloth and the water buffalo. So, if anyone's been waiting to test out that toxic trait in PvP, this could be your chance. One thing I wanted to touch on, this wasn't stated in our meeting, but I have my suspicions. It's no secret, it's been leaked, that there will be more drone options down the line. And it's been speculated that eventually we will have to choose our companion, similar to choosing your starter Pokemon. Each drone will supposedly have its own traits and skills that you'll be able to develop over time. Maybe a skill tree? Hopefully. Now, when we finally get around to heading out onto our first run in the overworld for PB3, whether it's with Mozart or new companion, there are a couple of updates that will make the entire experience just a tad bit quicker. The first of which is the introduction of mini and mega deposits. I can't be the only one who got impatient waiting around as you click, mine, and others have been begging for a mine all option for months. Rather than a mine all option, the team has made the vast majority of deposits mini deposits, allowing you to click the mine button once and then fly off to your next task, whether it be another mine or an alluvial instance. Now, you still have to wait around if you're lucky enough to find a mega deposit, but these should hold rare ores and shards, so hopefully the extra time spent will feel worth it. Now, one thing in prior game builds that didn't ever get much love was the plants. Sure, they were pretty, you could collect them, but you couldn't do anything with them. Kind of like morphopods. So, for the most part, plants got ignored. Now, I wouldn't do that if I were you, because consumables now have a key function, and that has to do with what they're calling shard integrity. Each time you travel into a region of the overworld, the alluvials you bring with you are contained in shards, and those shards have a certain amount of integrity. Or you can think of it as durability. Every time you use an alluvial in battle, its shard integrity will decrease by varying amounts. A little bit if you win the battle, and a lot if you lose. Once an alluvial shard integrity hits 0, there are only 2 ways to revive your alluvials, and that is either returning to Sanctimessa, thus ending your run, or using the previously useless plants, the consumables, to restore the integrity to your fighting team. Another thing I like about this is that it really offers more strategic options for those of us who live our lives in the overworld. Are you going to upgrade your drone so it can hold more alluvials on your team, or depend more on the consumables and just keep restoring them? Personally, while I doubt that I'll ever carry more than 6 alluvials into the overworld, I will certainly be carrying more than I have, and that's because we are finally getting the 2 things that I have been waiting oh so eagerly for: unique stats and leveling of our alluvials. Now, Quick note, we are not experiencing the full gameplay loop. What you catch in the overworld, no matter how rare and powerful, will, as far as I'm aware, not be usable in PvP. But still, even if we're still in private beta, how killer would it be to catch a perfect Ramfire or a Fisto? Each Illuvial is going to have base stats, and upon encounter, there's a chance that each base stat can be increased. So one random roll could influence, say, attack power, which would increase both attack damage and attack speed, while another roll might influence crit power, which includes crit chance and crit amp. Really what it boils down to is that while it's possible to find a Ramfire with max stats, I'm skeptical it's something we'll see in private beta, and honestly, just your road to Ramfire is going to be a bit more time consuming because I can't recall a single player yet encountering a Ramfire in an overworld run. And now, in order to fuse your Illuvials to the next stage, not only will you need 3 of them, but they will all have to meet a leveling threshold. And the only way to increase its level is experience from overworld battles. Unfortunately, unlike with Pokemon where your entire team would get some experience, in Illuvium, at least for now, only those Illuvials who battle will actually gain the XP. And finally, the last update I have for you is one that should help those of us who were a bit frustrated with the overload mechanic. Honestly, if you weren't keeping track of your energy or planning your trips just right, you could get caught in the wrong place when overload got triggered and it just kind of ruined your day. This time around, once overload gets triggered, rifts are going to open up all over the region, and flying through said rifts will replenish your ranger's jetpack and boot fuel, allowing your ranger to traverse the region faster without having to land, refuel, and waste time as you're trying to gather just a few more things before you're walled in at the obelisk. In the next few weeks, I'll be streaming, dusting off my arena skills, because let's be honest, who really wants to see their name at the bottom of the ELO rankings? So remember, whether you're eager to see my video on PvP details, or you want to hang during a stream, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and until next time, I'll see you on the PvP battlefield.